Hey everybody, Tom Lenfesti and Kyle Frizzell with you. You know,
Yes.
we've been looking a lot with clients over the last few months, of course, on changes of the CARES Act otherwise. But one of the things that we don't talk about a lot that NC Planning does is tax planning. So we do this for clients, for business owners mainly, but individuals as well, from a more proactive, how we like to plan approach to give strategic advice. And none more pressing sometimes is the time where there's a crisis, a cash flow crunch. And a lot of the legislation that came out with this CARES Act as a result of COVID-19 essentially gave some tax breaks, some good incentives for you. Of course, there's a lot of others, in the law as well. Kyle, myself, the rest of the team, we try to take these solutions and really deploy them where possible, work with your CPAs, your advisors. But what Kyle and I were discussing is, hey, maybe we want to use this time to essentially start, offering some of those tips, some of that advice to you on a regular basis. So Kyle and I discussed, and as a result, you now have Tax Talk Tuesday. Is that what we've decided, Kyle?
Yeah, I think so.
So Tax Talk Tuesdays, we'll try to keep them rolling as much as possible as part of this daily counsel video. As always, if you have questions or anything else, let us know. But again, for myself, an attorney CPA, for Kyle as an attorney, we've really worked, for income tax planning, for family kind of business platforms otherwise. So hopefully some of these stories, some of these examples, some of these explanations of changes in the tax law may be able to help you. So today we're going to kick it off with net operating loss and the changes under CARES Act. And again, just as a kind of 3-point explanation, today the goal is really to kind of say, what is net operating loss? In case you don't know or you're not familiar with the term. The second point is really, what kind of was the law, under the net operating loss and how you could maybe take that to your benefit if it applied to you. And 3 is CARES Act, under COVID response, kind of everything else, what has changed and how it may really benefit you. So to kick things off, first, net operating loss, simple explanation. If for tax purposes or otherwise, right, you have a loss, which means you had more expenses, right? You had more business losses than you had income in a certain year. Then under that aspect, you potentially have this net operating loss, right? And so that basically means, hey, it wasn't a good year potentially for you, but it also can mean that it was a big investment year that's going to take some years to recover. You may have had a business acquisition, some other things that kind of pushed you into the negatives. And that's your net operating loss. So usually it's a loss on the tax books or otherwise. But the question is, can you take it because you don't have the income to offset it? So there's some restrictions on that and a loss of benefit that you really don't get to benefit from it. But, the current law, Kyle, before CARES Act, if you can cover kind of point 2, how did they really cover net operating loss as far as deductibility or application?
Yeah, so back in 2017, when the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act came out, what we had was this net operating loss carryback was eliminated. That left us in a situation where all we could do is carry that loss forward, and that loss was limited to 80% of the taxable income of the business. But what this CARES Act has done is it now allows those carrybacks again. It's got a limited time frame on it. Right now, carrybacks are permitted for the years 2018, 2019, and 2020. And so we're allowed to take net operating losses, if there was a loss in a given year, look back 5 years and apply those losses over that 5-year period. Basically what we wind up doing is we can seek certain refunds in that year. In a time when we really need cash flow, we need additional funds for our business during this coronavirus pandemic. That is a fantastic benefit for a lot of business owners. So again, that's kind of our big deal there. The other side of this, though, on the CARES Act is the carry forward limit, that 80% limit, has been changed to 100% of income going forward. So if this was a big net operating loss year, for example, and next year you have taxable income, we can reduce that down to 0 for the next year again, tremendous benefit there.
Yeah, and I think it's, as Kyle mentioned, it's a huge benefit for business owners, especially if maybe you had some bad years, but also you might have been in investment years where, you knew you were going to have some losses, the investment into business platforms, acquisitions, otherwise. You may not even be sure, essentially, you may remember that you had a loss on one of your businesses or your core business, but it's definitely something to check. Because right now, again, you could go back, you could amend your returns, and you can also go forward with a tremendous, tremendous tax savings. It's basically saying, hey, things we weren't going to let you take for years into the future, and some people lose them. Essentially from that aspect is you never get to take it because you never get time enough to do so. You can take it now. It's cash right there available to you upon an amended return or a newly filed return. So it's definitely probably the largest impact I think people have seen excited about as part of that CARES Act and everything else. So hopefully this helps you. Again, Tom Linfesti, attorney and CPA, Kyle Frizzell, attorney with NC Planning. If you have questions on this or anything else, feel free to ping us, let us know, but hopefully this helps and gives you a little benefit, or a lot as you go forward and everything else. Thanks again, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.